I want you to meet my guest, Beth Chilcoat, and
Hi.
I feel like I know you because I've really been immersed in your story, and there's so many facets to it that prove God's grace. But
Absolutely.
don't misunderstand me, but I kind of fell in love with your husband while I was reading this.
He was a wonderful, wonderful man.
Everything a man should be.
Everything. Yeah, he really was.
A strong Christian, a strong leader of his family, but tender.
Yep.
And was he an attorney?
He was an attorney, but he was also a minister before that. He worked in an organization called Young Life, and did that for 10 years, and then became an attorney.
I was really attracted to that because when I was a teenager, we had Young Life in our living room. I remember a few kids from the school.
It's wonderful.
And it's even grown a lot since then, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I suppose people could go online to learn about it, but it's probably one of the greatest ministries out there to win teenagers to the Lord.
Especially, a lot of unchurched and, kids that just haven't heard the gospel at all. And because it's not located in a church, they do it at the community of like the high school. And so kids will come because their friends go.
And then they have camps and things.
Yeah.
Once you get a child at camp, it's the greatest opportunity for them to meet the Lord.
Yeah, it was
in that
wonderful.
atmosphere. So he was in that, then he became a lawyer.
Then he became a lawyer, yes.
3 children?
4.
4.
One of our children now runs Young Life in Columbus, where David started it, in Columbus, Ohio.
Boy, that's just
Yeah,
magnificent, isn't it?
It's
to know.
very exciting.
Now, how old was he when he was diagnosed with ALS, sometimes called Lou Gehrig's disease?
Yes, at 55. He was an extremely healthy guy, had never been in the hospital, worked out all the time, looked younger than he was, and he thought he had pulled a muscle in his foot, and he was also having just a little bit of cramping, abdominal cramping, and just, we didn't think anything of it. He went to an orthopedic doctor thinking that it's something that we can fix real quickly, and that was when we ended up heading to the neurologist and all the testing and everything, and it was ALS.
Isn't it a disease that's a little bit hard to diagnose?
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe it is. There's a lot of things that look a little like it. So, and I know with David, his was a very classic case, so the diagnosis almost came faster than, the first time we went to the neurologist, we went thinking he would say it could be this or this or this, and he didn't. He said it's ALS.
Really?
Yeah. And
I think that's unusual.
Yeah, I do. I think that is
what
unusual.
I've learned.
Yes, right.
So you get this diagnosis, and we've had diagnosis in our family, cancer, diabetes, and all, and there are things you can do for those.
Yes.
There's nothing
No.
with ALS, isn't that true?
That is true, and that is what we said. The first thing we said, well, what's the treatment? And they said, there is no treatment. And then we said, well, what's the cure rate? There is no cure rate. And really, just out of the naivety of that, I didn't realize that there was anything, that there was nothing that they, just nothing that they could even attempt or anything. They just said that that's all there was. There was one drug that they had just developed that might extend your life by a month or so. And that was it. That was it.
Well, what's it like? Because I've had bad diagnosis in my family. But what's it like to get, was really a death?
Yes, it was. It was. We believed with all our heart that God was in control and he would do what he would do. We didn't certainly rule out healing in any way. We knew he could do that, but we didn't know if he would do that. And we knew that that wasn't our decision, that was his decision. Whatever he would do, he would do. It would be the right thing. I'm telling you where I knew that intellectually when I received it.
Right.
Yeah, that's not where I was when we got the diagnosis, and it's probably still not quite where I am. But just because it's so hard to lose somebody you love so much.
How did he take the diagnosis?
He took it incredibly well. We got in the car, both just absolutely shocked to death, and cried and talked about how we would tell the kids and all that. We went home, our kids and their spouses and our grandchildren, everybody, friends, people just kept gathering, and we cried and we prayed, and but by the end of the day, and I truly wasn't there that day, but I mean, I wasn't there emotionally that day where David was. By the end of the day, he was saying, you know, we're just going to see what God is going to do. He's going to use this. He will bring glory through it. You know, and I was just basically saying, let's pray for healing. Let's just keep praying for healing, you know. And so I had to ask God to help me to catch up. And one of my concerns was that David would handle it spiritually, and he would lead the family, and I would fall apart, and I would be the one in the background going, you know, making it difficult.
You would have the privilege of falling apart.
Yes, and I just, I asked the Lord, you know, would you make this really weak person be able to do what you've called her to do? And that was an amazing thing, and I will never, I'm forever changed, because he did walk us through it every day. I'm not in any way saying it was easy. It was very difficult, but he gave us, I mean, we prayed for comfort and strength and peace, and then one day we said, I think we need to pray for joy too, because
wow,
because you know, and he gave us that too. He gave us that too.
You know, these kind of messages are not out there enough about Christianity. I think that we all, there's way too much emphasis on prayers answered according to my will, which is complete healing, joy, happiness, and all those things. It's not scriptural.
No, it's not scriptural. You
not.
have a homeless guy that you're following, and you know.
If you just tuned in, I'm talking with Beth Chilcoat, and she's talking about her remarkable husband and his journey through ALS right into heaven. Right.
Right, exactly.
Now, do I remember correctly that he began to blog on the internet from the first day?
He started writing in a journal the very first day, and that's the beginning page of the book, is the very first day. And then
Did he put that on the internet?
Well, he did it eventually, but what he did was, he was very well known in Columbus because he'd led Young Life and been an attorney, and so the phone was ringing off the hook. And I'd like to say it was a spiritual reason, but it really was more of a practical reason. Our son-in-law and our son said, why don't we get a web page so we can tell people how you're doing? But then the first time he started to write, he said, physically, this is what's happening. And then he said, but that's not really all that's happening, and here's what God is doing. And we got this enormous response from it, and so he started writing every week. And by the time he died, we had close to 90,000 people on the website, and so we had people from all over the world writing to us. And that was wonderful, because then you saw God use what was so incredibly hard.
We have on this program a fair amount of people who are knowledgeable in alternate health remedies and so forth. Your husband took massive antioxidants?
Yes, he did. He went down to, we're not allowed, the hospitals and doctor's offices can't do it in Ohio, but they can in Arizona. And
makes sense to me.
Yeah, I know. I can't quite figure it out, but we found a doctor down there, and he would go down as often as he was able and have intravenous IVs for like a number of hours of just massive antioxidants. And I mean, we couldn't conclude anything in the end with that. I think that I know that it made him feel better, and I know
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
And the cramping that was so debilitating, it pretty much took care of that. Whether it extended his life, whether it prolong the disease, I have no idea about that. But I do know that it truly was a help. And not everybody has really severe cramping with ALS, but he had he was so muscular that he had real severe cramping in the muscles, and it did help that.